Welcome again. We'll start with the analysis for Yojana July 2017, the issue which was focusing on the social security in India. Now let's first understand or talk about why social security is important in India. Now the statistics reveals by 2026 there would be 173 million elderly population in India, and most of this elderly population would fall into three categories: the poor, the underprivileged and the women, who actually needs a significant amount of financial and psychological support. Now social security has been mentioned down under Article 43 of the Constitution of India. Now the problem is in the public pension scheme. So the idea is to increase the number of beneficiaries, but there has been the significant number of beneficiaries that have risen up, or as a result you have more number of dependent population that is rising up. So government has to sustain so many people, and the idea is to provide each of them a kind of sustainable amount for their old age. So those are the issues that we would be discussing. Now the more developed and the less developed nation, if we talk about a comparative study here, it is believed that by 2050 1/3 of the population would be more than 60 years of age in the more developed countries like Europe and United States. However, if we talk about another statistics which was from European Union, it was quoted that there has been a population rise of elderly people from 7% to 14% in a period of 100 to 120 years, but that could happen in India merely in 40 years. So what happened in Europe in 120 years could be replicated in India in merely 40 years. So that's a real significant challenge in the Indian economy. Now India is again home to 1/5 of the world population, 1/3 of the poor population and 1/8 of the elderly population of the world. Therefore, providing them social security or looking after the old age people is a very challenging task. Now if we talk about the traditional old age security, why that policy is under stress, or that program or that idea is under stress. Now previously there used to be joint family system where old age people were taken care of nicely. However, now what happens is you do not have a kind of joint family system. Again, there has been an increase in the life expectancy, so there are more number of old age people. Since there are nuclear families and most of the females now are engaged in a kind of dual responsibility or dual burden with household as well as the career. So what happens is the number of caregivers for the old age people have decreased. The people who can look after them have significantly reduced. There are lower incidence of widowhood, migration of youth, and urbanization and occupational changes are some to be addressed. Now BKPAI was one of the major survey that has been conducted, which is known as Build a Knowledge based on population aging in India. This was conducted by United Nations Fund for Population, then the Indian Economic Growth Agency, then TIS and so on, and they gave a report which was known as Status of Elderly. Now under this report they pointed out that between 2000 to 2030 the population of old age people is likely to increase by 360%. That's a tremendous increase. As of 2011 there are 104 million elderly people. 45% of this elderly people are BPL or below poverty line, and 1/3 of this elderly people have a monthly per capita expenditure which is less than 1000 rupees. So the idea is to focus on the people who are specifically below poverty line and belong to the old age section. Now what are the government schemes? Government has laid down numerous initiatives or schemes. First is all the schemes that government has released, 80% of the people are aware of it, but only 20% of the people actually use it. Now some of the schemes that we would be discussing today are, the first is Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme. This was launched in 1997 as the Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme and renamed as Indira Gandhi Old Age Pension Scheme in 2007. This provides a monthly pension of 200 per month for 60 to 80 years and 500 per month above 80 years. Then the next is Indira Gandhi National Widow Pension Scheme, started in 2009. It is for the below poverty line widows of the age group of 40 to 64 years, and they are given assistance of 200 rupees per month. Later on, after 60 years, they are shifted to the old age pension scheme. The next is the various national programs for elderlies, which talk about various concessions. Now, the Rashtriya Vayoshree Yojana, the recent yojanas which have been released, the recent 2 yojana, we have not included it because that was not mentioned in the yojana. We will be covering those later on as we move forward with other classes. Now, the Rashtriya Vayoshree Yojana talks about providing the physical aid and physical assistance to the senior citizens. The idea was to benefit around 5.5 lakh citizens who are specifically from below poverty line in 260 districts in the next 3 years. Then the idea is a demand for a universal pension scheme that talks about providing pension for all men above 55 years and all women above 50 years with a monthly pension of 2000 per month or 50% of the minimum wages, whatever minimum is applicable. The next is Atal Pension Yojana, started in 2015, mainly for the unorganized sector. The pension amount varies from 1000 to 5000 per month, and the government contributes 50% or 1000 rupees, whichever is less. Now, this contribution by government is only for 5 years. The age of the applicant for this process should be 18 to 40 years. Jan Suraksha Bima Yojana 2015, and then you have another Yojana, that's the Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. So, Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana talks about providing an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees per family after the death for a premium of 330 per year, and this Jan Suraksha Bima Yojana talks about a premium which is an annual premium of 12 rupees. For the case of death or full disability, 2 lakh rupees would be paid. For partial disability, it would be 1 lakh rupees. Then opening up of new Jandan accounts with zero balance requirement, and this would provide an accidental coverage of 1 lakh rupees and life insurance of 30,000 after death. As of February 2017, nearly 27 crore Jandan accounts have been opened. Now, there are various state-run schemes like the Aata Dal scheme in Punjab, the Destitute Women Pension Scheme Maharashtra. Then you have Madhu Babu Pension Scheme Odisha, and Bridrashi and Sanjibati scheme in West Bengal. Now, the National Pension Scheme, very important. It was prior to 2014 that this scheme was started. Now, what happened was, till 2004, all the central employees who are given pension scheme. As of 2004 and later, all those who were employed under central government did not have the provision for pension. So, they were shifted to the scheme, the new scheme which was known as NPS. Now, NPS is the scheme where you have to contribute or make your own contributions. So, till 2004 it was pay as you go benefit. That means as you grow older, government would pay you the required amount as pension. However, the fixed amount, not the required, the fixed amount as pension. The next is, after 60 years of age, the National Social Assistance Program was started. However, under the new pension scheme that was started, it was under the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. Now, after 2004, it was mandatory for all the government employees to enroll under this scheme, and from 2009, it was open to all the citizens of India on a voluntary basis. Then later on, it became a part of the ATC deductions under the Income Tax Act. The idea was government would contribute 10% of the pay, and the equal amount has to be contributed by the employee and the employer would contribute 10%, and the person would be given a PRAN number, that's a permanent retirement account number, and this is a plan which is run by the LIC mutual fund and a PPF. All the records are kept under CRA, that's the Central Record Keeping Agency, which coordinates the functions of NPS. Now, NPS accounts can be opened either by the DDO, that's the drawing and the disbursing officer, or the pay and the accounts officer. Then you have the ENPS, that is linking of NPS accounts with Aadhaar, and the KYC documents. So from 2004 to 2008, NPS contributions were maintained by Central Pension Accounting Office. Later on, it was shifted to PFDRA, that's the Pension Fund Regulatory Department. Now there are two tier in the NPS system, tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 is mandatory and partial withdrawals of not more than 25% are allowed. 3 withdrawals are allowed through the accumulation phase, and then the first withdrawal should be only after 3 years of continuous deposits. The tier 2 is an optional investment where you have flexibility to contribute and there is no tax deduction for the same. Now after 60 years, what would happen would be that subscriber would have the minimum annuities that he would get would be 40% of the accumulated balance and 60% as lump sum. Of this 60%, 40% would be tax exempt and the remaining amount would be taxed. NRIs can also open the NPS account on a repatriable or non-repatriable basis. The idea is to provide the deduction under income tax ATC, and there are various investment guidelines. So initially the NPS contributions are allotted to SBI, UTI and LIC. However, which is open to public is distributed under 8 different segments. The idea is 50% under government securities, 45% in debt instruments, 15% in equity, 5% in debt, short-term debts and 5% in asset-backed structure. Now other than government employees have 8 options, so that those are HDFC, ICICI, Kotak, LIC, Reliance, SBI, UTI and Birla Sun Life. Now for a multiple choice question, you could have a question which of these is not a part of the NPS scheme open for public. So which of the following institution is not valid or open for the subscriber. Now under this you have the asset class that has been demarcated. So there are 3 classes. First is conservative, which talks about only 25% exposure. Aggressive life cycle talks about 75% exposure to equities, and moderate talks about 50% exposure. As of June 2017, there are 10 million subscribers who are already enrolled. The next is Tele-Law. This is the idea to connect every citizen to the legal services that could be provided on a technologically enabled platform, and this would be done through the community service centers. You have paralegal volunteers who are the first point of contact for any rural citizen. The next is health sector. We have already covered the health under the Kurukshetra July 2017 summary. So refer those. Besides those, there are few other points that are important, so we have included those here. So first was the Beveridge Committee report in 1942, which talked about social security as freedom from the want, and based on that in 2000 we laid forward the concept for health for all. Now worldwide there are different schemes for health. Some of those important ones are 30 Baht scheme in Thailand, decentralization reform and social health insurance in Indonesia, unified health system in Brazil. Now in India you have the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana started in 2008, which talks about providing financial protection against any type of health expenditure for below poverty line people. It covers 30,000 for hospital based inpatient care and an annual registration fees of 30 rupees. Then you have the numerous state run schemes. So you have the list here, it would be uploaded at the website, so you can have those for reference and remember those for your objective paper. The next is the Women Empowerment or Nari Shakti. Some of the important projects under this are, the first is Maternity Benefit Act 2017, already covered under the Kurukshetra edition. The idea is to increase the maternity leave from 12 weeks to 26 weeks, providing 6,000 rupees as the assistance for pregnant women. Next is Mahila E-Heart, that talks about a marketing platform for online entrepreneurs. Prime Minister Ujjwala Yojana, free LPG connection to people living below poverty line. 37% of these beneficiaries are from SC/ST. Until now, 2 crore women have been liberated from the smoke chulas. The next is the panic button on the cell phone, Himmat mobile app for women in distress. Sakhi centers for women affected by violence, PM Mudra Yojana for loan for women entrepreneurs, Nai Roshni talks about minority women, and 2 lakh women have been covered in the last 3 years. The next is empowering the differentially abled. Now under Article 14 of the 7th schedule, it says no person will be denied of equality before the law. Article 41 talks about right to work, education, old age and sickness. So there are various kind of scholarship programs. The most common is the National Scholarship for students with disability from class 9 to 12th. Providing financial assistance to procure more computers and editing softwares for students, 3% reservation for disabled students in educational institutions. The next is comprehensive educational scheme, which includes free infrastructure, transport, free books, free uniforms and free stationery. Then is the inclusive education for disabled at secondary stage from class 9 to 12. Rajiv Gandhi Fellowship for higher education, mainly for the MPhil and the PhD programs. 5% relaxation in group ABC's jobs, age relaxation for 10 years in case of recruitment, reserving the position in departments based on the work, the kind of work. So where there are more job opportunities for disabled people, there would be more vacancies. Then providing special employment exchange programs, promoting employment even in private sector. Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas has reserved 7.5% of the dealerships for the disabled people. Then you have National Handicap Finance and Development Corporation to provide loan to the people with disability. Indira Awas Yojana, free households to below poverty line families, of which 3% would be reserved for disabled. Then you have National Award to empower the persons with disability, trust funds for these people. Then you have various public sector banks for orphanage, women households and physically challenged people. Under 10th plan, there was a component budget for disabled for all ministries. Now under the Inclusive India initiative, which talks about or which has been laid forward by the National Trust of Persons with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, the idea is to bring them into the mainstream to provide inclusive education, employment and community life. The next important issue is farmer welfare. So agriculture is a mainstay of Indian economy. So bringing green revolution even in the eastern India and promoting development in the northeast was the main focus. So integrated scheme for oilseed, pulses, oil palm and maize should be released. Providing food security, Krishi Vikas Yojana, warehouse development, crop investment, Fasal Bima Yojana. Then you have the organic farming, so you have the Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, soil health card, the APMC, that's the Produce Marketing Act. Then under the MDG, the Millennium Development Goal, the goal 1 talks about the idea to reduce the malnourished children from 53% to half by 2015, and these are some of the goals that we aim to achieve under Sustainable Development Goal, Goal 1, that is no poverty, Goal 2 of no hunger, Goal 3 of good health, Goal 4 on education, Goal 5 on equality, Goal 6 on clean water, 12 on sustainable consumption and production, and finally Goal 13 on climate action. So all these needs to be included. The idea is to update the food component of the poverty line. So healthy eating index of India should be released. One of the Agricultural Research Institute has been established in Gogamukh in Assam. We have also covered this in the map location class. This is a new map location and contemporary and hence important. Then you have the various hill area development program that has been given flow in the northeast, mainly in Manipur, Tripura and Assam. Now what about the global scenario? We are talking about the social security issues in India. Let's have a outlook about what's happening throughout the globe. Now under the United Nations Human Resource Article 22, everyone as a member of the society is entitled to realization by national effort or international cooperation. Now in Germany, under Bismarck, compensation program, sickness program and social insurance program have been released. In UK, you have the Workmen Compensation Act 1897 followed by National Insurance Act 1911, and this was the first unified social security in UK after the First World War, and this has been somewhat replicated into India. The next is in United States between 1900 and 1920. There has been a shift from pension to social security under Roosevelt. Social Security Act 1935 was released, which was later on converted into Unified National Social Insurance System in 1943. In France, you had under Perry Lacaille, you had the social security scheme that evolved. Then the International Labour Organization Declaration of 1944 talked about the efforts to adopt social security. As of 2014, only 27% population across the world has social security. Finland's social security is considered the most advanced and comprehensive social security in the world. China also has certain schemes which are customized to their individual provinces. In Cuba, you have universalized social security scheme, and therefore whole burden lies on the government. Japan talks about mandatory participation of everyone in the social security schemes. So there are numerous challenges that has been laid forward, but what India can work on is developing a kind of universalization or inclusion of all the target beneficiaries, establishing autonomous social security schemes, developing a social security investment plan, working on public awareness, universal health coverage, leadership and legislative reforms. The idea that has been laid under the International Labour Organization 1952 talks about some of the major benefits which deal with unemployment benefit, sickness benefit. Then you have the survival, old age, Medicare and maternity benefits. Now the next concept is healthy learning or focus on healthy education. So midday meals program was started to cover 10 crore children across 11 lakh schools and employ 25 lakh women. So the idea was providing employment to more and more women, as well as covering maximum number of children and encouraging more participation into schools. Now there are various scholarship programs like Merit Cum Means Scholarship, Scholarship for Girl Child, Scholarship for SC/ST OBCs, National Scholarship Portal. Then you have Sankalp, which is a market relevant training which is being provided to 3.5 crore youth. Swayam, which is a kind of online virtual learning platform, anywhere, anytime platform. Ishan Uday, again higher education specifically for Northeast, where you have 10,000 students which would be selected. For general students, the scholarship would be 5,400 per month, and for professional courses it would be 7,800 per month. The idea is to establish 10 new AIMS institutes and do biometrics for midday meals program as well. Now helping the marginalized could be done by establishing the Khoya Paya portal, child care institutions, open shelters for destitutes, constitutional status to new OBC commission, land titles to forest dwellers, where as of now nearly 52 lakh land titles have been distributed. Venture capital funds for scheduled caste in 2014-15 was established. Tribal education has been given focus with new seats and new tribal hostels coming up. Eklavya model residential schools, which talks about residential schools for tribal students. NEET, which is a common entrance exam. Nayi Manzil talks about mobilizing the number of school dropouts from the minority community and promoting them to join the formal education system. Ustad Yojana, that talks about upgrading the traditional art. Now the unorganized sector, if we look on, India has 84% of the workforce in informal sector, and 90% of the workforce has informal employment. Looking onto the statistics, if we see the self-employment in the informal sector, that's very high both in the urban and rural areas. Now casual workers are much higher in the informal sectors in urban area, and the regular workers are much more in the informal sector in rural areas. So as of now you have a kind of huge number of total workforce that is actually present, but most of this workforce lies in the unorganized or the informal sector. So bringing in social and human development, bringing in more security schemes for those would hike people to move into the formal employment system. The idea is to increase the minimum wages by 42% for agricultural and non-agricultural areas, give a bonus eligibility cap which should be increased from 10,000 to 21,000 per month, providing unique account number to all members of the Employee Provident Fund, establish the code on social security and welfare, which is being proposed, and it's a 3-tier process where you have the National Council headed by Prime Minister, Central Board at union level and State Board at state level. The idea is to have a unique Aadhaar based registration as the Vishwakarma Karmik Suraksha Khata. Then is the various reforms under Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. So 58% of the rural population is involved in agriculture. There are various ways in which they are involved, like developing check dams, promoting irrigation activities, actual farm work, and in the 8 drought affected areas for 17-18, there are 50 extra days of employment that has been talked about under the Mahatma Gandhi employment scheme. You have the Bharat Nirman and the Swachh Bharat scheme that has been worked out, the Krishi Sinchai Yojana for irrigation. Mihir Shah committee gave out the new works for the Minegra schemes to improve the agricultural productivity. Project Life talks about skills for 41 trades and developing these skills for various entrepreneurship programs. Then is the direct benefit transfer, the DBT scheme, where the beneficiary will direct get the amount into the bank account. There would be no requirement for any intermediaries. The monitoring the work that talks about actual outcomes as against the expected ones. So you have 30 lakh hectares of rain fed area which will have water conservation work, 9 lakh hectares under irrigation and 6 lakh hectares under afforestation, 100 days of employment opportunities, percentage wages that are being paid by the electronic system has been increased from 37% to 96%. So you have the huge number of work that has come under the fund management scheme. The next is CSR, that's the corporate social responsibility, again a very important aspect. Now the idea is to protect the community. So all the institutions, all the companies under the Companies Act 2013 who have a net worth of 500 crores or more, turnover of 1000 crore or more, or net profit of 5 crore or more would have to bear the corporate social responsibility. And as of now 8,000 companies in India come under this. And what they have to do is actually spend 2% of their profit in the last 3 years on the corporate social responsibility to empower the marginalized. So the idea is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, 360-degree approach has been included, and for this the budget has been around 10,000 to 12,000 crore per annum. So you have the basic areas where the fund goes is the self-help group, elderly people and the slum development, and then you have the NPS Light or Swavlamban scheme that talks about encouraging people from underprivileged group in the unorganized sector to work for the retirement benefits. As a result, they can have a minimum contribution of 1,000 to a maximum contribution of 12,000 per annum for their retirement or pension in future. So with this we covered the basic highlights of Yojana July 2017. We would be covering the further editions of Yojana and Kurukshetra in the upcoming lectures. Stay tuned. Have a good day ahead.